My name is Soumya Sharma and I'm working as an assistant professor of journalism and mass communication in Department of Media Studies and Humanities at Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies. The topic that we are going to talk about today is crisis communication in public relations. Now, let's understand the meaning of crisis. By crisis, we mean any situation or incident that has the power to harm image of any brand or reputation of any company. Now, why crisis communication is important? Because if you don't plan your crisis communication on time, then it can definitely harm the image of your brand and it can cause a lot of damage to your reputation. So we are going to discuss an article by Jonathan Bernstein, which is 10 steps of crisis communication. First of all, we'll divide these steps in two parts. First is pre-crisis and the second one is post-crisis. So the parts that come under pre-crisis, first is anticipate crisis. What do we mean by this? Whatever situation may come in future and situation you may face in future, the challenges that you think can come in your company, you should be prepared for that. If you are working in a particular brand, if you are the PR manager of a particular brand and you feel that this is the kind of problem that we may face in future, you should assume and anticipate that situation in advance. Second is identify your crisis communication team. You have some people who are subject experts in your company and who know a lot about a particular area or a topic. So you have to identify those people who can become your crisis communication team and you should train them. You should start training them. This is the second part. The third part is identify and train spokesperson. Now, when we talk about PR or crisis communications, spokesperson play a very important role in this. Why? Because they are the persons who are going to represent your company or your brand in front of the public and the media as well. So it's very important to identify who your spokesperson is or who can become your spokesperson. Maybe there's a person who is at a very higher post in your organization, but that person doesn't feel comfortable in facing the media or the public. So obviously that is not the right candidate to become a spokesperson. The fourth step is spokesperson training again. Why this spokesperson training is important? Because it is very important to know what words to choose and what to say when you are facing the media. Sometimes we say some things which are not correct politically, and sometimes we have to be diplomatic in our words. So you have to train your spokesperson so that when they face the media, when they answer their questions, even if they are faced with a difficult question, they can answer it smoothly and they can save the reputation of your company. Next part is establish notification and monitoring systems. Now, what do we mean by establishing notification and monitoring system? Is that whatever brand you are working for, whatever company you're working in, it's very important to set up few social media accounts, few systems through which you can monitor what is happening. By monitoring, we basically mean whatever is being said about you, whatever people are talking about your brand, whether they are saying good, whether they are saying bad, what image you have in the market. It's very important for you to know all of that. So setting up social media accounts on, for example, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and so many other options that we have today is very important so that you track each and everything that is being said about you, that is being talked about your brand. And notification as in case you have any update, in case you want to communicate with the public, with the audience, you can easily do that using these multiple platforms. The sixth step is identify and know your stakeholders. Now, stakeholders again play a very, very important part in your organization. Why? Because all the stakeholders and the employees who are there are somewhere or the other your PR representatives and your crisis managers, whether you want them to be or not. Why? Because obviously they are going out and they are talking about your brand to other people, to the external audience, and it is somewhere going to influence the image of your brand. So it's very important to identify and know your stakeholders and be in touch with them on regular basis. The seventh step is develop holding statements. Again, a very important part, develop holding statements. By this, we mean that whenever you feel that there is a kind of crisis situation that is going to come your way, or maybe something like this can happen in future, you should be prepared for it by developing some statements that are general statements but which you can use in future. For example, you know that maybe someday you can commit a mistake or some blunder can happen with your brand. So you can prepare an apologizing statement or comment which you can immediately release after the crisis happens. Why? Because it is better to prepare at this time when you are preparing it peacefully rather than preparing it when you are in a panic mode, because at that time the chances of making mistakes and blunders are higher. So you should prepare some statements which you can immediately release and you can immediately communicate when the crisis happens. Okay, so this was the pre-crisis part, and now we are going to talk about the post-crisis part. So the crisis has happened, and now what you're going to do about it is the eighth step in this would be assess the crisis situation. First of all, don't panic, which is very obvious, because if you panic, it is going to worsen the situation. That's it. So assessing the crisis situation means gathering as much information as possible at that time so that you can react accordingly. If you have incomplete information, you will react in a way that you should not be. So obviously that will backfire instead of helping you. So assessing the situation, knowing what has exactly happened, whose fault was it, who did what, who said what, that is very important. Once you have the complete information, once you know what exactly has happened and now what you should do about it, then only you can go on and take an action. So that's the eighth step. The ninth step is finalize and adapt key messages. Now it is time to take an action and communicate with the public, with the audience, with the media. You will have press conferences, you will have meetings, you will have other public speaking events where you will have to face the public and the media about what happened, what went wrong, and here you have to give the clarification or justification. Either you have to apologize if it was your mistake, or you don't have to if it was not and just a miscommunication or just a rumor maybe. So it is very important that now you finalize and adapt those key messages that you're going to communicate. Keep them simple, don't keep them very complicated so that it doesn't confuse the public. Keep them short and simple and be very clear in what you are trying to say and what you want to communicate to the public. The 10th and the final step is post-crisis analysis. So now the crisis has happened. Obviously it was not in your control, but now that it has happened and somehow you have controlled it, you have to see why did it happen, what went wrong, what would have been better, what would have could have been done. So this is the analysis that you have to do after the crisis has happened. Many people do this mistake of thinking that it cannot happen to us, which is very wrong. No matter how big your brand is, no matter how popular you are, no matter what image you have in the market, crisis can happen to you, crisis can happen to anyone at any point of time. So thinking that this cannot happen to us, we are so prepared, our work is so efficient, is completely wrong, because obviously in case that happens, then if you're not prepared, it will be problematic situation for you. So thinking this should be avoided and you should prepare for it. Many brands many big brands like Maggi, Nestle, Cadbury, Air India, have faced crisis. Almost every big brand that we know have faced some kind of crisis at some point or the other, and they have faced it beautifully and they have come out of it, taking care that their image or reputation doesn't get spoiled in front of the public permanently. So yes, if you are studying public relations, if you are doing mass communication, journalism, you have to study this crisis communication. Why? Because it's very essential, and without this area of study will be incomplete. This can also be a very good career option in case you are interested in this field of public relations And in case you feel that you have those skills of communicating with the public and you can easily handle situations, you can come up with good ideas and solutions, you can definitely go. It's a very challenging field, but it's a very interesting field as well. So in case you have any queries, any doubts, you can write to me. My email address is somya, somya.fmeh@mriu.edu.in. Thank you so much.